You already assume China's economy is struggling right now, and it kind of is. But here's the paradox. In February 2026, America and Israel launched a war on Iran, partly expecting it would starve China of cheap oil and expose it as weak. Instead, China chose to buy less oil, set a ceiling on the entire planet's gas prices, and turned the whole war into free advertising for its own industry. By the end of this video, you'll know why China's oil stockpile made the war a non-event for Beijing, why the fighting became a marketing campaign for Chinese EVs, and why some of America's closest allies are quietly hedging their bets. And around the 9-minute mark, I'll show you the exact daily oil volume China simply stopped buying once the war started, a cut big enough to cap how expensive gas got for the entire world. It's one of the strangest flexes in modern economic history. Stay for that. On February 28, 2026, the US and Israel struck Iran, killing Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei within hours. Iran responded by shutting the Strait of Hormuz, the narrow waterway that normally carries about a quarter of the world's seaborne oil trade. Ships got trapped, prices spiked, and by August, that strait was still effectively closed, 6 months later. Washington's assumption was simple: cut off Iran, and you cut off roughly 13% of China's oil imports, which had been coming in at a steep discount. Add that to the US seizing Venezuela's oil exporting regime a few weeks earlier, and China should have been staring down a serious energy shortfall. It wasn't. By December 2025, before the war even started, China had quietly built up close to 1.4 billion barrels in total crude inventories, according to the US Energy Information Administration. Compare that to America's own Strategic Petroleum Reserve, sitting at just 413 million barrels that same month. China's government-controlled stockpile alone, not counting the commercial side, was already close to matching it. Meanwhile, companies like BYD and Geely kept shipping EVs by the container load, and by the first quarter of 2026, China's EV exports hit $21 billion, up from $12 billion a year earlier. Xi Jinping didn't have to do much of anything. He just had to already be prepared. Think of it like two neighbors before a storm. One keeps a fridge full of leftovers. The other keeps a basement stocked with a year of canned food, a generator, and a backup generator for the generator. When the power goes out, one neighbor panics. The other barely notices. China built the basement. For decades, Chinese planners have obsessed over something they call the Malacca dilemma. Most of China's oil arrives by sea, and it funnels through the narrow Strait of Malacca near Singapore, a choke point the US Navy could, in theory, blockade during a war over Taiwan. Beijing has spent 20 years trying to make sure that scenario would never actually hurt them. It turns out those same preparations also worked perfectly when Iran, not America, closed a different choke point entirely. The core tool here is the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, basically a national gas tank held by the government for emergencies. Most countries keep enough to last a few weeks. China built one large enough, combined with its commercial oil holdings, to run the country's total oil consumption for well over 100 days without importing a single new barrel. The US reserve, by contrast, could only cover about 20 days at the start of 2026. Here's the "wait, that means" moment. It means China could afford to simply stop buying oil for months and let its stockpile do the work, all while every other major buyer in Asia was scrambling. Japan gets roughly 93% of its oil from the Persian Gulf. South Korea, around 70%. China gets about half its oil from that region, and even then, it has coal, nuclear, and hydropower doing most of the heavy lifting for electricity. Oil and gas together make up less than a fifth of China's total energy mix. Then there's the currency angle, which is quieter but arguably more important. most global oil trade gets settled in US dollars, which lets Washington monitor and sanction nearly anyone doing that trade, because the transaction has to pass through a US bank at some point. China built an alternative, the Cross-Border Interbank Payment System, or CIPS, launched in 2015. A transaction routed through CIPS between a Chinese and an Iranian bank never touches a US bank at all, which means US sanctions can't reach it. In 2025, CIPS processed roughly $25.5 trillion worth of transactions for the full year. By March 2026, as Iran and Russia leaned harder into yuan settlement to dodge sanctions, daily CIPS volume hit a record 920 billion yuan, around $130 billion, with a single-day peak near $178 billion in April. The yuan still isn't close to replacing the dollar. It made up only about 3% of global payments as of mid-2026, according to SWIFT's own tracker. But that's not really the point. The point is optionality. China built a system that lets its trading partners avoid US financial leverage entirely, and every new sanctions regime on Iran, on Russia, on Venezuela makes that system a little more attractive to use. One-sentence summary: China spent 20 years preparing for a war the US might start against it, and that preparation happened to work just as well against a war the US started against someone else entirely. This war hasn't been some flawless coronation for China, but look at who actually got caught underprepared, and a pattern shows up fast. First, the US Strategic Petroleum Reserve itself. After Russia invaded Ukraine in 2022, the Biden administration sold off a large chunk of the reserve to soften gas prices at home. That decision made political sense at the time, but it meant the US entered the 2026 Iran war with its reserve sitting around 413 million barrels, well below its 714 million barrel capacity, and near some of the lowest levels the reserve had seen in decades. The mistake: treating a strategic reserve like a short-term political tool instead of a long-term insurance policy. Second, Japan and Taiwan. Japan imports roughly 93% of its oil from the Persian Gulf. Taiwan sits around 58%. Neither built anything close to China's buffer. When Hormuz closed, both had to lean on the International Energy Agency's coordinated emergency oil release just to avoid serious shortages. The mistake: assuming a choke point you don't control will always stay open, right up until it doesn't. Third, Europe. Governments across the continent absorbed the inflation and the fuel price spikes from a war they didn't start, and in many cases didn't want to be pulled into militarily. That resentment doesn't show up on a balance sheet, but it shows up in diplomacy, and China has been more than happy to be the calm, patient alternative, sitting right there. Two recurring mistakes worth remembering: treating a strategic reserve as a rainy day fund instead of a war chest, and assuming your allies, or your rivals, will quietly absorb the cost of decisions they had no say in. Let's look at two very different bets on this same crisis. Small-scale bet: Pakistan. A few years before this war, Pakistan started importing Chinese solar panels aggressively, well ahead of any crisis. It wasn't a massive geopolitical strategy. It was mostly about cost. When the Iran war sent oil and gas prices climbing in 2026, Pakistan was already less exposed than its neighbors, and analysts estimate the country is now saving billions of dollars a year it would otherwise have spent on imported fuel. Full-scale bet: China itself. 20-plus years of subsidies, state planning, and infrastructure spending on EVs, batteries, and solar, built up long before anyone knew Iran would matter. The payoff arrived in real time during the war. In March 2026 alone, China exported a record 68 gigawatts of solar capacity, double the month before, and EV exports hit 349,000 units, up 140% year-over-year. Battery exports crossed $10 billion that same month. None of this was built for the Iran war specifically. It just happened to be sitting there, fully loaded, when the war hit. The company that got it right, BYD. Once dismissed by Western automakers as a budget brand, BYD is now one of the 2 or 3 largest EV manufacturers on Earth, and it rode this export surge directly into record quarterly numbers, with Europe alone absorbing 45% of China's EV exports in March 2026. Nobody at BYD had to predict a war in Iran. They just had to keep building. So here's the paradox again, resolved. China's economy really is dealing with weak domestic demand, a property crisis, and slower growth than it used to have. All of that is real. But none of it stopped China from turning a war it had nothing to do with into a stress test it happily passed, while capping global oil prices, boosting its own exports, and making its financial system look like the calmer, safer bet to a lot of nervous countries watching from the sidelines. Napoleon supposedly said, "Never interrupt your enemy while he's making a mistake." China didn't interrupt anyone. It just kept stocking the basement. And that's really the whole story here. You don't have to win a war to win the war.